Okay, we're going to be starting Chapter 2, Lesson 4, where we're going to continue to perform operations with multi-digit whole numbers and with decimals to hundreds, specifically focusing on partial quotients, where we divide using partial quotients. This lesson is going to emulate 2-3 a lot, but rather than drawing pictures, you're going to see where all these numbers come from. With that being said, I'm going to be doing this in two ways. I'm going to be doing the partial quotients, and at the same time I'm going to do last lesson where we did the pictures. So the way that we started off, like all division problems, is by writing it out left to right. 236 divided by 18 equals blank. And remember, in order to get a check plus, you do have to label all of your different parts. So the 236 is your dividend. So on top of 236, write dividend. And your dividend is your total. So if you remember last lesson, the dividend was the total amount of flats, longs, and cubes, small cubes. The divisor is the next number, and that in the picture was the amount of rows going up and down. And then your quotient is your answer. And in last lesson's picture, it was the amount of columns going left and right. Like I said, I'm going to be solving every single problem two ways. The way that we did in 2-3, as well as this new way. And I'm actually going to color code certain things to help us see where the numbers come from. So every time I'm using the divisor, I'm going to be using blue. And every time I'm going to do part of the quotient, I'll be using red. Partial quotients means that each time we do another step, we're finding another part of the answer, the quotient, and then at the end we're going to kind of add it up. So I'll show you how that goes. Let's start with the 236 divided by 18. We're going to take that divisor and have 18 going up and down. And before starting this lesson, I'm going to do it the way that we did it last lesson. So we did a 10 by 10. Which is a flat, which is 100. And from there, we're going to do rows of 8. So there's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And we're going 18 up and down, 18 rows, because our divisor is 18. So that's why I'm using the blue. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And if we were to add the total so far, we have 100, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. So right now we have 180. And we got 180 by doing the divisor, 18, by the first partial quotient, which is why I'm using the red, times 10. So here's our times 10. If you look at this new lesson, I'm going to do the old lesson on the left side and the new lesson on the right side. What they started with was the dividend inside the house. But this is not using the standard algorithm. So if you ask your grown-up for help, they're probably going to do it in a different way, which we'll learn in 2-5. Keep in mind we're doing partial quotients. So instead of doing 18 times what gets close to or equal to 23 without going over, we're saying 18 times 10 is 180. So we're going to subtract 180. In yesterday's lesson, we started with 180 and we kept adding until we got to 236. In this lesson, we're starting at 236 and we're subtracting until we get to 0. So we did 180 because 18 is our divisor and 10 is our first partial quotient. Now you could see in the book, they like to do 10 times 18, and I like to switch it. I like to put the divisor here and the partial quotient here. So here's our our divisor, 18, and our 10 is our first partial quotient. Now once you subtract these two, you'll see how much you have left to draw. 6 minus 0 is 6. 3 minus 8, you're going to regroup. The 2 becomes a 1. The 3 becomes a 13. I like to use my fingers, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 5. Or another way to do it is count up 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 1 minus 1 is 0. So we have 56 more to draw. Now, if you know 18 times what is 56, you could do it in one shot. But here, you could see that they guessed. They said, hey, I know we could add at least 2 more. And I'm guessing the way that they got 2 is 18 is close to 20. 20 times 2 is about 40. So they knew they could do 2 more. So we're going to draw 2 more rows of 18. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So here we drew 1 more. That's not a row. This is a column and it goes up and down. 1, 2 more columns. So our next partial quotient is this section right here, which is 10, 20, and then if you count them out, you could do 18 times 2. If you don't, what's great about our cheat sheet here is if you don't know your 2's very well, you could just go over here. 2 times 8 is 16. Regroup the 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. We have another 36. So this 36 represents these 2 columns, 1, 2. So over here, we have 36. Over here, we had 180. So now we're going to subtract 36. 6 minus 6 is 0. 5 minus 3 is 2. Remember, we're going to continue to subtract 18 over and over, or multiples of 18, I should say, until we get to 0. Whereas in yesterday's lesson, we added over and over and over until we got to 236, our dividend. This equation right here was 18 times the partial quotient of 2. This 18 is our divisor. This 2 comes from our drawing right here, 2 columns. That so far equals 36. So our divisor multiplied by our first partial quotient gave us 180. Our divisor multiplied by our second partial quotient got us 36. We have 20 more to go. Since 18 is less than 20, we can draw 1 more column. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And in this third column, there's only 18. So we're going to subtract 18. And we did this by doing 18 times our partial quotient, 1. And now we have a remainder. 0 minus 8, we can't do without regrouping. It would be a negative number, but we won't do that. 10 minus 8 is 2. And here, we have 2 left over. What that means is, if you imagine 2 small cubes, we can't make a whole row, or column, I'm sorry, columns go up and down. We can't make a whole column of 18. So this right here is our remainder. So what I want to do is I want to dissect everything here. Where do we get all of our numbers? The 18 is our divisor. 236 is our dividend. What then is going to be our partial quotient? It's going to be these red ones added together. This 10 plus the 1 plus the 2 groups plus the last group. So the 10 plus the 2 plus the 1 is 13. And then we have a remainder of 2. So the small r to represent remainder 2. To me, I really like to do the picture alongside this algorithm right here, only because it helps me keep track of the numbers and it's a great way to make sure I have the right answer. So you could see that 18 is our divisor, 10, 11, 12, 13 is our quotient, and then all together equal 236. To get a check plus, you do need to double check your work. How would we double check our work? Since the inverse of division is multiplication, we would multiply 18 by 13. and then add our remainder of 2. So let's do that right now and see if we got the right answer. If we have the right answer, 18 times 13. If you don't know your 3's very well, take your cheat sheet out. 3 times 8 is going to be the first step. 3 times 8 is 24. We're going to put the 4 down here, and we're going to regroup the 10s. The 2 goes up there. Then we're going to multiply the 3 by the 1. 3 times 1 equals 3. And we're going to add that number that's floating on top. 3, 4, 5. Now, I'm going to cross the small 2 out, any of the floating numbers. I'm going to say second number, second row. So when we multiply by the tens digit, which is this 1 right here in front of the 3, we're going to put a placeholder 0 and an x here. This 0 has a value in the sense that since we're multiplying everything by 10, keep in mind that this 1 is in the tens value, everything's shifted to the right one. Now we're going to multiply just like we did with the 1's place, but now everything by the 1. 1 times 8 is 8 because of the identity property of multiplication, and 1 times 1 is 1. Keep a look at where everything goes. Because this is the second number, it goes in the second row. And we line everything up. 4 plus 0 is 4. 8 plus 5 is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Regroup the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 234, we're going to check it with our dividend. Our dividend is 236. Is there a step we forgot to do? Here's our remainder 2. Don't forget to add remainder 2. And we have our 236, which is our dividend. So to have full credit, make sure to double check your work. Multiply your divisor by your quotient, and then add your remainder, and it should equal the dividend. Let's do one more problem before we set up the word problems. 540 divided by 36 is our next one. First step, label everything. 540 is your dividend. It's your total. 36 is your divisor. And we're looking for the quotient. Because we're finding the partial quotients, we're going to be adding different parts up to find the overall quotient. You know, if you can jump straight into the standard algorithm, go for it. But I'm going to draw the picture first because it definitely helps me out. So our divisor is 36. So if we were to have 36, oh wow, that's a tough one to draw actually. That's, all right. We'll have a 10 by 10. So that's 10, 20, 30, and then 6 longs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So going up and down is our divisor, which is 36. And here we can count 10, 20, 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When you multiply by 10, you have 100, 200, 300, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 360. So everything that we did so far was simply 36 times 10 is 360. That's all we did so far. In terms of the new lesson, they want us to draw it inside the house, put 540, our dividend inside, 36 our divisor outside, and say in that first column, we're going to subtract 360. We took that 360 by doing 36 times 10. So on the side here, do 36 times our first partial quotient. As you can see, the quotients are going to be written this way. Now you're going to ask yourself, when you subtract this, how much do we have left? 0 minus 0 is 0. 4 minus 6, we won't do without regrouping. The 5 will become a 4. The 4 will become a 14. 14 minus 6 is 4, 5, 6, 8. Another way you could do that is say 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Either way, you'll get 8. 4 minus 3 is 1. So you have 180 left to go. And we're going to go in groups of 36. At this point, what I would do is I would look at the side paper and say 36 times what gets close to 180 without going over. So 36 times what number gets close to 180? What I'm going to think to myself is, I get the cheat sheet for the 3's. And I'm going to say, look at just the first 2 digits, 18. 3 times what number gets close to 18? I know that 3 times 6 is close to 18. So let me see what happens when I do 36 times 6. Just see what happens. 6 times 6 is 36. 6 and regroup. 6 times 3 is 18. Plus 3 is 19, 20, 21. 216. We definitely cannot have 6 columns because we only have 180 and that's 216. That's too much. So let's try another number. 36 times 5. Here are the 5's. 5 times 6 is 30. 0, regroup the 3. 5 times 3 is 15. Plus 3 is 16, 17, 18. 180, that's right on the money. 180 is the same as 180. So you know you could add 5 more rows. You could add 1 more set. And that would be 18. You could add a second set. And that would be 18. You could add a third set. That would be 18. You could add a fourth set. Also at 18. And the last set. At 18. And when you add these up, repeated addition is multiplication. I don't know why I said 18. These are all 36. 36 times 5 is going to be 180. So that right there is going to be your second partial product. And unlike number 1, there is no remainder. Because we got right on the money, 36 times 5 is 180. And we had 180 to use, there's no remainder. Last step is to count our columns, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, or in other words, add our 2 partial products. 10 plus 5 is 15. We got our divisor, dividend, and our quotient. Last step is just to multiply to make sure 36 times 15 equals our dividend. If so, we can move on to the next problem. If not, we have to look for where our mistake was. If you don't know your 5's, feel free to use your cheat sheet. 5 times 6 is 30. Regroup the 3. 5 times 3 is 15. Plus the 3, 18. This is where a lot of you guys get a little confused. You're good at multiplying the first number, but once we get to the tens place, we're multiplying everything by 1 now. Don't forget to put your placeholder 0 and an x there. That x represents that it does have a value. We're multiplying everything by the 1, but since it's in the tens digit, we're multiplying everything by 10. So it kind of just gives it a placeholder. Multiply 1 by the first number at the top right. I like to draw an arrow to remind me what I'm multiplying. 1 times 6 is 6. Multiply 1 by the next number to the right, which is in the tens place. 1 times 3 is 3. Make sure your numbers line up. 14, 3, 4, 5. Your answer is 540, and that is our dividend. So we double checked that our quotient and our divisor multiplied together equals our dividend, and we can go on to the next problem. For the word problems on here, I'll show you how to set it up, but I won't solve it for you. But let's read it. A factory processes 1,560 ounces of olive oil per hour. Processes is a fancy way to say it makes. So there's this factory that makes olive oil, and they specifically said they made 1,560 ounces every hour. So in the first hour, they made 1,560 ounces. In the second hour, they made 1,560 ounces, and so forth. The oil is packaged into 24-ounce bottles. So they'll take one bottle, that'll be 24 ounces. They'll take another bottle, 24 ounces. Another bottle, 24 ounces. How many bottles does the factory fill in 1 hour? I guess the good thing is that they told us how much it makes in 1 hour. Therefore, we don't have to do any conversions. We're not going to convert it by minutes or anything. They told us. How many bottles does the factory fill in 1 hour? All right, let's draw our part whole. The total always goes on top. Read through it again and let's see if there's a total of something. So let's read it again and see if we have a total. If so, it goes on top. A factory processes 1,560 ounces of olive oil per hour. The oil is packaged into 24-ounce bottles. How many bottles does the factory fill in 1 hour? So we do have a total. The total goes on top, and it's 1,560 ounces of olive oil in 1 hour. So in 1 hour, there's that much olive oil. The second part to it is they're going to package it, because once they make it, they want to package it to sell. One box is going to represent one bottle. So there's one box. Underneath, put 1B for one bottle. Do you know how much is inside of one bottle? If so, we're going to write it inside there. If not, it's going to be an X, and that's what we're trying to find out. So let's read it again and see. Here's one box that represents one bottle. Do we know how much is in one bottle? Let's read it again. A factory processes 1,560 ounces of olive oil per hour. The oil is packaged into 24-ounce bottles. That's saying in one bottle there's 24 ounces. So you're going to write 24 ounces inside the one box. Then you're going to draw another box and put 24 ounces. And underneath that second box, you're going to put 2B, which represents your second bottle. Do you know how many bottles there are? Because you could draw an arrow and just say how many bottles there are. Let's read again and see if we know how many bottles there are. A factory processes 1,560 ounces of olive oil per hour. The oil is packaged into 24-ounce bottles. How many bottles does the factory fill? Since they're asking you how many bottles does it fill, you don't know. Okay, since you don't know when it says how many bottles does the factory fill in 1 hour, that means that's what you're trying to find out. So you could put a question mark there. So when you look at this picture, you have 1,560 ounces total, and each time you're taking away 24. Minus 24, minus 24, minus 24, because you have a total and you're getting smaller. You're taking away from this total 24 at a time. So the number's not going to get bigger, so you're not going to add. And the number's not going to get bigger, so you're not going to multiply. You're going to either subtract or divide. So you have two choices here. You can do 1,560 minus 24, minus 24, minus 24, minus 24, until you reach the number 0, and then see how many times you subtracted 24 to count how many bottles you're able to fill. Or you just do 1,560 divided by 24, because repeated subtraction, minus 24, minus 24, minus 24, is division. So I hope you have a good time doing that one. For number 11, I'm going to let you try figuring out the picture box on your own. However, keep in mind that your total goes on top if that is known. Find out how many boxes you'll have and why, and then what goes inside each box, if anything. So good luck with doing number 11. It will mimic number 10 pretty well. It is a one-stepper. And let me know if you have any questions tomorrow.